Okay, now that we've made our first print, I will show you how to clean your tools. You really don't need to do this after every time you make a print. Part of the fun of gel printing is that every print sort of reacts to the print that was there before it. So you could very well just put more paint on this plate and keep going, and you'd pick up some of this blue that's already on here, and then that could be really interesting. But for the sakes of this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to clean your tools so that you know how to do it when you want something really clean. And it's actually not that hard at all. But the first thing I would do after you make a print is clean off your brayer. So roll it on your scrap paper to take off any extra paint. This one's pretty dry now, but that's okay. And we can also use a wet wipe. So just take a wet wipe, and you might want to hold this corner still with your finger. And I'm just kind of wipe it so I get all that extra paint off. Now I'm not looking for it to be super clean. It doesn't matter if there's color on the roller, but what I am looking for is to get rid of any paint that is kind of wet, because that will influence the colors that you put on next. This is also why I like to have more than one brayer, is because you can kind of keep them in color families. So if I'm doing a bunch of printing with red and blue, I can have one for the reds and one for the blues, and then I don't contaminate the rollers, the brayers. Okay, so you can see I've got most of that turquoise paint off. There are other colors underneath, but those are pretty dried in, and I'm not super concerned about that. But what I will do is I will take the brayer and roll it off onto a dry piece of paper. Make sure that there's no extra blue paint on there. Can kind of use the edges, roll the edges on so that it's kind of at an angle, so the paper goes here, and that way I can get anything that is on the edges off of there as well. So when you put your brayer down, it's usually best to put it upside down, because that way you don't get the paint from the roller part all over your desk and all over your paper and everything, and it just sits better and it's cleaner. Okay, so you can also wipe your gel plate with the wet wipes as well. So this is really easy. I mean, you just use a finger and I just wipe. But in all honesty, this is a lot more tedious than it needs to be. So often what I would do is I would just actually make another print. So I would take a little bit more paint, put a little bit more paint on top, just a tiny bit. You don't need much, just enough to essentially glue that paint to the paper. And then I just spread it around. And again, if I'm just cleaning this up, I'm not too concerned about the quality of the layer in between. And you can see there's some lint in there, but that's totally fine. And then I just take a scrap piece of paper, put it on top, and use that to kind of clean my plate off. Now, I will say that there are some printers that actually never, ever clean their plate. They really like when you get all those like grungy bits on the side and even in the middle. But I like to have more control over that sometimes. So yeah, so you can see we got most of this off now. If you were being really picky about it, I would go with the wet wipe, and you can just, you know, actually give it quite a bit of a scrub if you want to. Just kind of wiping it down, and then to pick up all that extra water, which will give you grief if you don't, just use a piece of scrap paper and put it down there just to pick up any extra moisture. Okay, so you probably can't even see that because the plate is transparent and the plexiglass underneath is already got paint on it, but that's okay. So again, I'm just going to make sure that this is clean on the edges. There's nothing coming off, and I'm going to just wipe it down with the wet wipe. Now, the only time I really bother doing this is when I'm totally changing colors on my brayer, or like at the end of the night, the end of this session. Okay, and again, I want to take any moisture off of there, so just roll it on a dry sheet. And there we go. So that's how you clean your tools.